What type of work, if any, were you engaged prior to you getting into the real estate business? What else did you do, if anything, as far as work?
I sang professionally, and once the background, my mother was a realtor, so I started working with my mother, and she and my dad were amazing. She would share all of her commissions with me until I could get a book of business. And I tell people every day, had it not been for them, I'm not certain where we would be today. She was an amazing woman who loved her family with a passion. She loved me. And I look back now, especially at my age and stage of life, and I think, gosh, if Nana could just be here, everything that she's taught me, I have used it in my business practice, and it has not failed me.
That's great. That's great. How long were you with her in that company before you left?
We started out with a small company that was a Century 21, and Lenny, the dates escape me, but we stayed there for a brief time. Then we went to Dan Stewart, and then from Dan Stewart, we came to Crye-Leike, and I'm gonna guess we've been with Crye-Leike, don't hold me to this, I'm gonna say maybe 35 years. So we've had a long tenure with Harold and Dick.
Yeah, that's great. I remember Dan Stewart when we first moved here. As a matter of fact, it seemed like I bought a house through one of their agents before I ever knew anything about Crye-Leike. Okay, so how much was the first home you sold? Do you remember?
$60,000.
Well, that goes way up for me. Mine was around 15,000. The first house I sold in Clarksdale. So how did you broaden your sphere of influence in the beginning? How did you get started other than in your mother's firm? Do you remember? Did you build a sphere of influence at that time, or when did you start doing that?
When we moved, and I've got Mickey sitting in here, we were trying to figure that out. When we moved into Oak Run on Hunter's Hill, we started building a sphere of influence by walking the neighborhood, canvassing the neighborhood. One of the first things that we did is right before Thanksgiving, we did a drawing for a turkey, and I went to every single house in that neighborhood and knocked on the door. And we drew their name, gave them a turkey. And I think that from there, then we decided the next thing we needed to do is to build a drip mailing campaign whereby people would see our name and start to figure out, okay, who is this woman, Judy Mac? And I don't even know if y'all saw this, but I'm gonna share a couple of things because it is funny. We, Mickey and I felt like that you really needed to go to convention to see what was taking place in other parts of the country. And I'll never forget, there was an agent there that was a Howard Brinton superstar by the name of G. Dunstan. And G specialized in selling vacation properties. And every time he would do an ad, he would go and dress up in some type of outfit, go down to the beach, take his sold sign and stick it in the sand. And then he sent these to all of the vacation people or second owners of property. Well, it took off like wildfire, and he was the most energetic, most entertaining man. So Mickey looked at me and he said, why can't we go back and do something similar to that and see if we can get people to respond to our look and feel and see if we could make it work in our neighborhood. So what we did, I'm going to show you. Can you see this?
Yes. Wow, look at that.
Judy Mac cooking up sold food for you. Catchy. Simple. Now y'all remember, we'd have to take the labels and we'd have to put them on ourselves and then do the stamps. So then we did another one. Crib too small, no crib at all. That can help you buy a house this year. Now again, that took a lot of guts to wear that type of a getup. Then, I mean, we just laughed. Then this one was Judy Mac, I can hardly wait to make your sale or purchase an easy rider.
Oh, that's great.
So Mickey and I have laughed. I said, I don't know what it was. Were we more creative back then? We had lots of energy, and we would constantly bounce off ideas that we felt like that we could incorporate into our business. So we did that for probably about a year. And during that year's time is when the phone started to ring and people said, okay, I want to see this woman. I want to interview her. If she has the guts to dress up like that, what other tricks up her sleeve might she have that she would be willing to help us sell our house? And it really started in our subdivision of Oak Run. After a while that we lived there, and we lived there for probably 17, 18 years, it was safe to say that people knew us as the industry standard, as the person that knew everything that was taking place there, because we would go to all of the functions. We would host things at our house just so that people would have an awareness of who we were and what we do for a living. So that's really when all of this began to start. And we've built on that year after year after year. After we did that, somebody said to me, well, okay, after you do that, what do you do next? Well, we wanted people to view us as the professional. So then we contacted an ad agency in California. And again, this all came from a convention called Hobbs Herder. And at that time, again, what we saw is that there was nobody that was differentiating themselves from the pack. But we'd go to convention and see these agents who had produced brochures, and then they would tell us their story of how their sales had increased. So Mickey said, okay, we're going to spend the money. And oh God, it was a lot of money back then. And we produced our brochure. And what we did, people want to know about who you are and about your family.
That's great.
So we used this successfully for many years. They also created an ensemble of letterhead, envelopes, business, everything that was the total package, so that whenever we sent something out to a client, it had that same look and feel that we wanted to project. I shall never forget that I went into Harold's office and I said, we want to deviate from red. And he said, well, show me what you'd like to do. So we showed him our logo and what the color was going to be. And he looked at it and he said, you have my blessings. So we ran with it. He trusted us enough to know that what we were going to do was going to be tasteful, that it would be viewed as professional, and that we would never do anything to bring any shame to the company. I think he always knew that he could trust Mickey and I to do the right thing. So as time has gone by, and I've told people this all the time, your look has to change. You have to become more relevant in the marketplace that you are in. So this last year, and I'm sitting here with Mickey, was it last year or year before? We updated our website.
I think it started 2 years.
2 years ago, we updated our website. We did another ensemble of letterhead, business cards, because we felt like as we pay the people that we trust to advise us, they said, what you have or what you have produced has served you very well, but now we need to take you into the 21st century where everybody can see things a little differently. So here's our business card. And on the back of it is our logo. Hustle and heart sets you apart. We wanted a business card that they would remember. This one's small. Everybody in our office that works for us, they have the same thing. We have our envelopes, and then we have our letterhead, which is wonderful for me to take a few minutes as I go through the day to write personal notes to people, to tell them how much we appreciate them. If they're going through a difficult time in life, they need to know that we're not just there to take care of their real estate needs, that we want to help them in any way that we can. So these are just some of the things that we have employed over the years that we think have helped us achieve where we are today. Does that make sense?
It makes great sense. Good ideas. Good ideas. Some may have questions when we get through. We'll give them the opportunity to ask anything when we finish up with ours.
Okay.
What about, did you set a number of calls that you would make every day, the number of contracts that you would have every week or every month? I'm sure you had those goals based on the way you've already shown you've thought things out.
You know, Lanny, when let me pivot. When Mickey came to work and he left his corporate job to come and start running the business, I will never forget this as long as I live. He came in, we were still on Hunters Hill, and he brought in a little 3x5 card in a Rolodex box. And he said, "Okay, Jude, I'm going to give you some things I want you to do." Now, remember, Mickey came from a background where he managed a group of salespeople. And now he had the terrible task of trying to herd me and keep me in a structured environment so that we could look at numbers at the end of the year to see where we were. So he gave me that Rolodex box and he said, "Here's what I think you need to do. Take 10 cards out. And when you hit the pavements, what you need to do is you need to," and Mickey's sitting right here, "we either set the goal that you either have to call 5 people, you have to go see 5 people, and you have to write written notes to 5 different people."
All three the same day?
Well, during the week.
Oh, during the
So
week.
I didn't dare come home until I had accomplished those tasks because we wanted to measure taking those actions to see if they really worked.
Say
And,
that one more time.
and they worked. They worked. As much as I hated it, it worked.
What
And
were the two things, Judy?
I would put 5 names of people that I would call. There would be 5 people that I've had some type of interaction that I would go see. And there would be 5 people that I would write handwritten notes.
That's great.
Those 15 things, as elementary as that was, it's one of those things we both have said to other people, you just have to go back to the basics because people still need to know that what you look like, how you treat them, how you interact with them and their family. Those things, I guess, and I don't know, I've got Mickey sitting here. I think after a year of looking this, our business began to soar. And I just sat there and I just thought, Mickey, he really knows what he's doing. He just knew that he had this unmanageable woman that had lots of energy, who could sing and had a love for people. And I know he thought if I could just get her to the place that I could give her things that were structured, she could implement them and our business would grow as the years go by. And it has. So that was a very simple thing that I can attest works. I do believe today that younger agents, if they'll employ some of those things, I can't help but believe that they'll work as well.
That's great. That's great. That's good illustrations to go by. So if you had to recreate yourself, if you moved to a different market, and I hate to even say those words because Harold could probably get out his gun and shoot me if he even mentioned it, but just as an example, if you moved to another southern city, large southern city like we have in Memphis, and you had 5 years to do it, what would your key priorities be for those first 2 years? What would you do like that you've done for all these years in those first 2 years? Nobody knows.
Figure out who your market is, and you've got to figure out what mediums that they are embracing in order to get branding recognition. And I think now Mickey's the marketing person. I'm not. He probably would say if we could figure out what's going on in that city, then he would subscribe to some type of mail outs whereby my face and our logo was on it. And then he would probably try to figure out something we would do on a social media. But the other thing when you go into new cities, and we've said this to people, is you've got to get involved in some type of activity, whether it be if you have a love affair for the symphony, if you're doing something like Dishes for Wishes, you've got to get up front and center with these people so they can know who you are and what you do for a living. And then I think from there, then you start dripping on them, be it, again, an ad campaign. One of the things that we've done through the years, and it all started at Hunters Hill, we do a big client party in November. That client party started at our house in Oak Run. I cooked all of the food, and then we invited our sphere of influence. And I think we started, it was like on a Sunday afternoon from 2 until 5. So those first few years, they were magical because basically we really didn't know what we were doing, but it was just almost like an open house for your friends. And they wanted to come and see who is Judy, who is Mickey, What does her family look like? At that time, my mom and dad were still alive. Bryn was in college. My sister was here. That we would gather. They'd ask us to sing. They would remember those moments where we invited them into our home to say nothing more but thank you so much for allowing us to serve you. So as the years have gone by, that party has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. When we lived in Bedford, this was probably, Mickey, correct me if I'm wrong, 2007 was the last year we gave the party. We gave it at our house. We would send out every person that we've ever sold a house to. Those invitations would be about 800. And what you figure is you have about 300 that show up, which was about right. We would put a tent on the side of our house. We'd have a golf cart to come and pick up the guests where they would park their car. We would bring them to our house. We would have Christmas carolers at the front door.
We went to a limo.
And then Mickey reminded me, then we went to a limo. I'll never forget, there were several clients that had never even ridden in a limo. And as we watched their faces and how excited they were, we both said, this is why we do what we do, is if we can bring some type of joy to somebody that has never experienced something like this, then that's what we're supposed to do. So that party lasted until 2007 was the last year that we gave it. It had gotten to the point it was enormous. We used to call it Bill Street on Bedford. Joyce Cobb would come to sing. We absolutely had a blast. And then in 2008, the market hit the wonderful thing that we call the recession. And we made some decisions at that point to take those monies and distribute those to things like Dishes for Wishes. Because at that time, and I'm sure y'all remember this, how can you do something flamboyant when there are people that are bringing to closing $60,000 because they're upside down in their house? So boy, did we have a learning experience from a business perspective as well as personal to watch all of this take place. So again, as time evolves, then you start to do things differently. Our party is now hosted in November. We have about 400 people that come. We feed them royally. We entertain them royally, but it is a small way to say thank you for being so kind to us and allowing us to take care of the needs for you and your family, because we take that very, very seriously. And we have it at the Lexus dealership. They've been very kind. Our marketing person has been responsible for that. But you can see this doesn't happen overnight. It is a process of many, many years of building on top of things that you know that work, and then things that are not as successful, then you put those to the side and perhaps you'll use them for another day.
You're very inspiring. That is just terrific. Tell us, how do you feel about coming soon? The coming soon sign. Do you have any thoughts about it yet?
Not really, Lanny. I think it's one of these things that the board has embraced it. NAR has embraced it. We want to be good stewards of our company and what it represents. And I think it's going to be one of these things that we're going to have to work through it. We have not used it yet. Mickey and I were talking about this last night and this morning, and I'm sure that we'll have some thoughts in the coming weeks. But right now, I think we're just, and maybe this is not the right way to say it, I think with everything that we're dealing with, the stay-at-home lockdown, and just trying to keep our clients to the point that they are encouraged, we have not focused on this. That's not to say we're not going to. We will. We've just been distracted by what's taking place, and we're trying to make sure that they know that we know they're fearful, but we know that people have to buy houses and sell them, and that we're going to do everything in our power to get them where they need to be. So probably in a week or so, Lanny, I'll have some other things maybe to share that you and I can chat with briefly.
That's great. So your percentage of experienced buyers and sellers, how many of those, I know surely you and Mickey won't have an exact number, but just an idea, how many of those have pulled back from buying or selling right now? Have you noticed a big dip one way or the other?
I don't think the buyers have, because the ones we're working with right now, there's a real sense of urgency that they need to buy. So we have bought gloves, masks. When we suit up to go show a house, dear God, we look like somebody's invaded. We asked the listing agent if they can possibly have the homeowner turn on all the lights for us so we don't have to touch anything. I think the one arena that we're seeing a little bit of pushback is that if there's somebody that's older that maybe is fearful and they really don't have a sense of urgency to sell, I think those are the people that are saying to us, Judy, maybe we take a step back and see and reevaluate the situation, maybe the middle of May. So
We've had a couple of buyers that decided to hold on.
All right. Yeah, we do have a couple of buyers right now that have said to us that they're just the uncertainty has created some anxiety for them. And we certainly respect that. That doesn't mean that I still don't send them things that I think would be appropriate for them to look at, but they've made the decision that they need to take a step back.
Well, that's kind of what I expected to hear, but it seems like, as you said, buyers are plentiful in the marketplace right now. Now, whether there'll be more coming out, as they normally do this time of year.
Right.
And as you know, May the 15th is going to be a big day for a lot of changes, apparently, in our marketplace. How many hours a week do you normally work? I know you don't have a set amount, but just generally, I'm saying you work 7 days a week unless you're out of town. Is that right? Or
I work all day, every day, and I'm just wired differently than a lot of people. I love what I do. I have a lot of energy. I'm still working 60, 70, 75 hours a week, depending on what's taking place in the marketplace. If we have a lot of listings that are getting ready to go live, then I'm going to work forever how long it is that needs to be in order to get the client comfortable and get all the players lined up for what has to take place. So we're working just as many hours today as we did 25 years ago.
That was my next question.
Well, it hasn't changed. And when we leave town, people who know us, we go out of town to do one primary thing. It's to sleep. But I still answer my phone. I still work my contracts. I still talk to Neely and Tina and David daily to see what's on our agenda. I think for us, and I can't speak to anybody else, it's just having a change of scenery. Mm-hmm. It's not so much the drudgery of work, because it really isn't drudgery for us. It's a pleasure, but it's sometimes the grind of getting dressed. And women that are watching this know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the washing of the hair, making up the face, make sure that you look the way you need to be. Well, when we're out of town, nobody knows where we are. And all they want to do is hear my voice, and I can have a baseball cap on and some jeans.
That's great. Were you working just as hard 25 years ago, or were you working harder? I know you were bound to be working differently in many ways.
Definitely. Same hours, just as your business grows, your focus becomes different as time changes. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The new agent, you're going to be focused on, how do I get new business? Where do I need to go to give people my business card? And who can I follow up with to say, thank you so much for meeting me yesterday. Should you ever have the need to buy or sell, I would be delighted and honored if you would remember me, give me an opportunity to work for you.
If you weren't a realtor, what would your dream job be?
I'd be a trial lawyer.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you'd be a singer.
No. Listen, I didn't do anything to get a voice. God just gave me that. There's a big difference.
A trial lawyer. That's great. You'd be a good one. You'd be a good one. Okay, last question. No, I've got 6 more questions. Do you or have you had a mentor? Yeah, I think you kind of answered that in the beginning. A guru, a personal coach over the years, all those names that you threw out early on that you learned from. I'm sure those fit in that description somewhere or another. But have you had a guru or someone that trains you other than Nikki?
Well, let's go back. Probably my mentor was Joy Rowe.
Oh, yeah.
And Joy and I used to handle some of the same corporate accounts. And I loved her and she loved me because there was never any competition. I loved her because she was so uniquely different, and she loved me because she looked at me and thought, I'm a mini Joy. And I was in a lot of ways in how we handled our business. And to this day, we do speak to one another. If I come across something that I find is very challenging, I'll call Joy and say, okay, pretend you're 30,000 feet overhead. Here's the situation. Tell me what you see. And she's always very gracious to share things. So she would be my mentor. The next person that I can truly say that has, well, let's back up for a second. My mother was the person that I looked up to. My mother's love for people. She used to say, Judy, your business is your ministry. You may be the only Bible that they ever see to show God's love. So whatever you do, do it well and love them where they are. And she said, as long as you never look at people, but you conduct your business with your heart, you will never, ever lack having a job. And she's right. But I must say, the person that has taught me more about business in terms of the business and being structured has been Mickey. It has, as I have laughed and told people, it has been a love-hate relationship where he has hated my guts and I would like to stomp the living bejesus out of him. At the end of the day, we each come home to each other and embrace each other and know that this is God's provision for us to work together because we have a love and passion for people. And that's our prayer, is that people see that despite the successes that we've been blessed with, we're very humble. We know it's only by God giving us the ability to work hard, but we know that our hearts are in the right place, that we want to help people as best we can.
That's great. You ever turn your phone off?
No.
Okay. Even on a trip?
No.
That is great. Where's
That
your
might be great for some people, but again, my obsessive personality needs it to be on because I'm thinking somebody needs to talk to me because I can help them in some way.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean I answer immediately when it rings, but it does mean that I'm constantly checking voicemail messages and text messages.
Yeah, I thought for sure you were going to say yes. Good for you. I like that. What's your favorite place in the United States to vacation when you aren't worried about travel time?
We love to go to Big Sur. There is a resort out there called the Ventana that Mickey and I have been going to for 33 years.
Huh.
And we love it because when we go there, we just camp out. We don't have to dress. And we do silly things like we watch movies. We watch old TV series that we don't get to do when we're at home. And then it just gives us a great time to sit and talk and discuss life, our family, what we're seeing in business, what could we incorporate when we come back. I think more than anything else is if you have a place that you love, you recharge your battery, and then you come home and you're ready to serve the people that you care about.
That's terrific. If you retired, what would you do year one?
That's not happening.
No retiring.
There is, well, why? Why would I retire?
Right.
As long as I'm healthy, God gives me a reasonably sound mind, and I believe that I can contribute. I believe that work allows us to be relevant in today's time. When we look at our client base and see a lot of the age group is in their 40s, then that tells us that maybe what we're doing is not wrong, but it could be right. And I think they so appreciate the length of time that we've done it. And I think they love the fact that we have a lot of experience to share with them.
That's good. In a few words, would you describe the advantages that you can think of being with Crye-Leike?
They are a market leader. They're innovative. It is a fabulous group of people that are like-minded. I've never seen anything like it. It is like a large family. And I think any agent that has been there as long as Mickey and I can attest to that. They are as good as it gets. They are down to earth. They're loving, they're compassionate, they're kind, but they always pride themselves on being on the cutting edge of technology and industry changes, and they are very quick to come back and share those with us. So for us, leaving has never been a thought for us. We love being here. We love you, Lanny. We love our office. We love the people that work there and how kind they are to us. And Steve Brown, he's a rock star, an absolute rock star. So I think I've told people before, you can never go to work for somebody that's not smarter than you are. And Steve and Harold are smarter than we are. And we love them and appreciate all that they bring to the table.
We can't thank you enough for sharing this time. I've learned so much about you and known you and Mickey for so long, but it's just been very interesting. And I know we've taken a lot of your time, but we do appreciate it very much. Does
Well,
anybody have any quick questions? We can't ask many, but if anybody has a question you'd like to ask Judy, now would be a good time. I think they're shy. Well, thank you, Judy. And thank you, Mickey, for all y'all do for us and for sharing this time with us and all this valuable information.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you for asking us to be a part of this.
Bye, Judy.
Bye-bye.